Rory Calhoun, born Francis Timothy McCow on August 8, 1922, in Los Angeles, entered the world under difficult circumstances that would shape much of his personality and resilience. His father, an Irish gambler, died when Rory was still an infant, leaving his mother to navigate grief and financial hardship alone. Seeking stability, she remarried, but the household that followed proved volatile rather than nurturing. Rory adopted his stepfather's surname and endured a childhood marked by emotional strain and instability, experiences that left deep impressions on him. These early disruptions created a sense of restlessness and defiance that followed him into adolescence. Without consistent guidance or security, Rory struggled to find direction, and the absence of a stable foundation pushed him toward rebellion. Long before Hollywood discovered him, his life was already defined by survival, endurance, and a fierce determination to escape the circumstances he was born into. Youthful rebellion and a hard lesson in consequences. As a teenager, Rory Calhoun's unresolved anger and instability manifested in reckless behavior that brought him into frequent conflict with authority. He became involved in theft and petty crime, actions driven less by malice than by confusion, survival instincts, and a lack of guidance. At just 13, a serious offense landed him in a juvenile reformatory, an experience that hardened rather than softened him. Attempts to escape confinement reflected his refusal to feel trapped, even when those attempts worsened his situation. By 17, he ran away from home entirely, living on the margins and engaging in increasingly risky behavior. His choices eventually led to imprisonment in a federal medical facility, a sobering chapter that forced him to confront the direction his life had taken. Though painful, this period became a turning point. It stripped away illusions and left Rory with a clear understanding that change was no longer optional. Reinvention through grit and physical labor released just before his 21st birthday, Rory emerged determined to rebuild himself from the ground up. With no safety net, he took on physically demanding jobs that tested his endurance and forged his rugged persona. He worked as a logger, miner, mechanic, fisherman, truck driver, and cowboy, embracing labor that demanded discipline and toughness. These years away from Hollywood were crucial in reshaping his identity. The work grounded him, instilling a sense of responsibility and self-reliance that had been absent in his youth. Though the labor was exhausting, it gave him something he had never truly had before: pride earned through effort. Unbeknownst to him, these experiences were also shaping the screen image audiences would later admire. His authenticity, physical confidence, and weathered presence were not manufactured in a studio. They were earned through years of hardship and perseverance. A chance encounter that changed everything. Rory Calhoun's path toward Hollywood was not carefully planned, but sparked by an unexpected moment of recognition. While riding a horse in a Los Angeles park, he caught the attention of an established actor who saw potential in his commanding presence. This chance encounter opened a door Rory had never imagined entering. Soon after, influential industry figures arranged screen tests that introduced him to studio life. His early roles were small and often uncredited, but they provided valuable exposure and experience. Hollywood, however, was not immediately forgiving of his past, and setbacks continued to follow him. Even so, Rory remained focused, determined not to squander the opportunity. The studio system reshaped his image, giving him the name Rory Calhoun and molding his rugged appeal into a marketable persona. Slowly, persistence replaced chaos, and ambition replaced desperation. Rising stardom and the Western hero image. By the late 1940s and early 1950s, Rory Calhoun had carved out a distinct niche in Hollywood, particularly within westerns and adventure films. His strong jawline, physical confidence, and understated intensity made him a natural fit for frontier heroes and stoic leading men. Audiences responded to his authenticity, sensing that his toughness was not an act. He moved steadily from supporting roles to leading parts, appearing in a wide range of genres that showcased his versatility. Westerns became his signature, but he also ventured into romance, drama, and adventure, proving he was more than a one-note performer. Throughout the decade, Rory became a reliable box office presence, respected for his professionalism and endurance. Though critics were sometimes divided, audiences remained loyal. He represented a certain rugged American ideal that resonated deeply during an era shaped by post-war uncertainty and shifting cultural values. Longevity. Through adaptation and genre shifts. Unlike many stars of his era, Rory Calhoun adapted as Hollywood evolved. As tastes shifted in the 1960s and beyond, he expanded into international productions, historical epics, and later, genre films that embraced experimentation. In the 1970s and 1980s, he appeared in cult classics and unconventional projects that introduced him to younger audiences. Rather than resist change, Rory leaned into it, demonstrating a willingness to evolve without abandoning his identity. His performances during this period carried a self-aware edge, blending experience with resilience. Even when projects were modest, his presence elevated them. His final roles reflected maturity and reflection, often portraying authority figures shaped by experience. By the time he stepped away from acting, Rory had amassed a body of work that spanned decades, genres, and cinematic eras, solidifying his place as a durable and adaptable Hollywood figure. A complicated personal life. Behind the image off-screen, Rory Calhoun's life was far more complex than the confident heroes he portrayed. He married multiple times and fathered several children, navigating relationships that were often strained by his demanding career and restless nature. His personal life attracted attention not because of scandal alone, but because of the contradictions it revealed. Rory valued independence yet craved connection, a tension that influenced many of his relationships. Friends and colleagues described him as charismatic, passionate, and fiercely private. He guarded certain aspects of his life closely, shaped by an era when vulnerability could be costly. While his marriages and relationships had moments of warmth and commitment, they were also marked by conflict and separation. These experiences reflected a man still grappling with emotional scars from his youth, even as fame and success followed him. Silence, privacy, and the cost of an era. Rory Calhoun lived during a time when Hollywood demanded strict conformity, particularly regarding personal identity and private life. Survival often meant silence, discretion, and emotional restraint. Rather than speculate or assign labels, it is more accurate to understand Rory as someone deeply shaped by those pressures. He carried emotional weight from relationships, disappointments, and betrayals that he rarely discussed publicly. The bitterness he sometimes expressed later in life appeared less about individuals and more about the system that forced secrecy and emotional compromise. Like many of his generation, Rory learned to compartmentalize, projecting confidence while suppressing vulnerability. That internal conflict left lasting marks. His guarded nature was not cruelty, but self-protection formed in an unforgiving environment. Understanding this context allows his emotional complexity to be seen with empathy rather than judgment. Later years marked by reflection and distance. In his later years, Rory Calhoun gradually withdrew from public life, choosing privacy over publicity. Health challenges limited his appearances, and he spent much of his time away from Hollywood's spotlight. Those who encountered him during this period described a man more reflective than combative, shaped by experience rather than ego. While he could be blunt and opinionated, there was also a sense of realism about the choices he had made and the life he had lived. The industry he once thrived in had changed, and Rory accepted that change without bitterness toward his legacy. He remained proud of his work, particularly the westerns that had defined his career. Though quieter, his presence still carried authority. This period of withdrawal allowed him to live on his own terms, something he had sought since his youth. Final days and a legacy of resilience. Rory Calhoun passed away on April 28, 1999, at the age of 76, following complications from long-term health issues. His death marked the closing of a chapter from Hollywood's golden age, particularly the era of classic Western heroes. In accordance with his wishes, he was cremated, leaving behind a legacy defined not by scandal, but by endurance. Over more than 4 decades, he appeared in over 80 films, adapting to an ever-changing industry while remaining true to his core strengths. His life story, marked by hardship, reinvention, and persistence, resonates as a testament to resilience. Rory Calhoun may not always be remembered as Hollywood's most polished star, but he remains one of its most authentic. His journey reflects the cost of survival, the power of reinvention, and the quiet dignity of a man who endured far more than most ever knew.